Hello and welcome. I am Scriberlock, and this is City of Heroes on the Rebirth server. We are with Quintessence last, level 27 Brute, with 622,000 experience earned, 66,000 to go to get to level 28 in our next power, and 1.3 million influence. And we're going to start the next contact in Croatoa, whose name is Skipper, and he says, "Hey there, Quintessence lass. Long time no see. Well, actually, just saw you yesterday. I've been hanging out in Croatoa for some time now, and I guess you could say I've learned a lot about the Furbolg and the Tuatha. Only one thing bugs me. No one back home believes me. If you could help me with that, I think I could clue you into some bigger things going on in Croatoa. Care to get me some evidence?" So here we go. One thing I don't like about Croatoa, and I feel like they didn't do this in quite so much in the Hollows and hardly at all in uh, Fault Line, is all these like defeat X missions. Go defeat some guys on the street, which to me is like super cheap on the part of the developers. Like, we're not just going to make a story up or just go defeat some guys on the street. We're not going to bother to make a mission map. We're not going to bother to make it cool and interesting. Just go beat up some guys on the street. And let's see if we can get an AoE going here. Here we go. Come on. There we go. That's what I like to see. And oh great, none of this counts. So we have to go to New Connaught. I don't know how you say that. So that's Salamanca. I don't know where that zone is here actually. So let's just look around. So this is it. So I was right on the edge of it. Didn't count. Alright, we'll beat these guys up. Yeah, I feel like this is sort of very lazy mission writing. The map is already here, so all they have to do is say, go beat 10 guys up. They don't have to make up a mission. They don't have to bother with the mission editor. They don't have to bother with goals like rescue guys, defeat alls, whatever, making sure that it's all bug tested or whatever. Just go defeat 10 guys in the open world. That's very lazy. Yeah, I don't know why that other one didn't count, because I think we're pretty clearly in that zone. But okay. So as we go, something really interesting happened on the D&D Beyond forum. I feel like there's something kind of magical that happens in this pumpkin patch, like furbolgs spawn next to the pumpkins, but maybe not. Anyway, somebody made a post there, and I'm gonna refer to her as a girl because she calls herself a girl in the post, and she made this complaint that she was part of a campaign. The campaign ran for quite a while a year ago, close to a year ago. I'm like, why are you posting now? But you'll see why in a moment. And she said she loved the campaign. She thought it was great, but there was some friction among the players, and I guess between the players and the DM. And the DM decided to end the campaign. He said it was too stressful, and he was getting stressed out DMing with this group, which immediately means you shouldn't do it. And he wasn't happy, wasn't having fun, and so the campaign was going to end. And I'll continue with that in a moment. So he says, "Thanks, Quintessence Lass. Nice shooting. I guess I shot pictures of them. Maybe with these, people will wake up to the dangers." Then he says, "I expect you're aware of the ancient Irish legend about the Frobolg and the Tuatha." Well, you're in for a treat. Actually, not aware of it. Certainly this character's not aware of it. She's a scientist. She doesn't believe in mythology and stuff. or at least didn't before she started being a superhero. The Firbolg controlled Ireland for hundreds of years until the Tuatha arrived. They were big, burly warriors. They drove out the Firbolg, leaving them only in a small area of, I guess it's Connaught, to themselves. I bet it's not pronounced that way because Gaelic and Celtic stuff never is pronounced the way I think it is. It seems that ancient enmity never really died. It seems that somehow the Firbolg and the Tuatha have carried their war into the spirit world and they're still fighting it. If we're going to keep Salamanca safe, we need to know about their war. That's where you come in. I've located a cave full of Firbolg nearby. Go in there and find out what's going on. All right. So this is more to my style. We're going into an instanced mission, which is what I prefer. So they had this adventure, and so they had this game group, and they were going on. They had a campaign going, and they went on adventures, and the DM stopped it because he wasn't having any fun, and he said it was too stressful. Now this player was having fun, and did not want the campaign to end. And she said she felt like the problems that he was having, she thought with one of the players could have been worked out, and they should have kept trying. And she worked really hard to keep the campaign going and try to get them to all keep playing. Now, if it's me, and I'm the DM who said I don't want to play anymore, I'm stressed out, someone trying to keep the campaign going I would not react favorably to that, right? Because I've already decided. By the time I've brought to the table, I don't want to play anymore. I've probably been thinking about it for a while. I've probably been pretty unhappy for a while. At this point, I've probably been trying to fight through it for a while because as a GM, I would feel that it's partly my job to take it on the chin a little bit for the players, right? GMs are often very self-sacrificing. I've been sacrificing for a long time. I'm probably resentful that I've been self-sacrificing. Does it sound like I've had experience with this? Because I have, although mostly as a guild leader rather than a GM. Because as a GM, I didn't generally feel underappreciated. But as a guild leader, I certainly did. And I feel like I've been self-sacrificing for a bunch of players who don't really appreciate it. They're stressing me out. They're making my life miserable. I've taken it on the chin for a long time to try to make everybody else happy. And at this point, I'm done. And I've decided I'm going to make me happy. I've had it. People aren't reciprocating, not even a little bit, and I'm done. And that's probably what happened with this GM. So a player coming along, as I had happened with a guild I was running in, excuse me, in Star Wars: The Old Republic, when I finally made the post saying I'm done and I'm out, and I guess either somebody can take over or that's the end of the guild. And since nobody else took over, that was the end of the guild. We basically mothballed it. And it was at that point that one of the most inactive players got on and tried to find a way to get me to keep doing it. I'll help you in any way I can. I'm sorry I haven't helped before. And I was like, no, I'm done. The guild is done. There was hardly anyone left in it. There's no point. If somebody else wants to take over, they can. I left the guild intact, in name. I left it in place. But I said, it's no longer going to be an active guild. If you want to stay in it to use the bank and the whatever other guild materials we had at the time, I'll leave my character who's now semi-retired into it to keep that up if you want it, but I'm done, right? And that's apparently what this GM did. So this player kept trying, I guess, worked tirelessly to try to get the campaign back or keep it going, and the GM had none of it. And there's a boss. Pretty cool. Okay. And so that was the end of it as far as the player knew. Months and months, close to a year, I think, went by. She's still friends with the GM. I guess they're all still friends with each other. I don't really know. And so she said she had him over her house. And they were playing video games together. And I guess to make it easier, she was using her desktop and he used her laptop. And so that sounds great. Except then what happened is when he left, when he was done and he left her house, she saw, we didn't even need to click this, she saw that he had been logged into Discord. And instead of just closing it, which is what she should have done, she spied on him. She looked through his Discord and what he had been doing in Discord. Can you see the train wreck happening already? So, and we'll look at the clue in a sec when we get to Skipper. So apparently, looking through his Discord, she saw that he had, I guess, a private room set up in the Discord. I guess where they used to play the camp. They used to, I guess, use for the campaign. I'm not really sure. And I guess he had this private chat room that only he and the other, or chat channel, I guess, that only he and one other person could see. And as she scrolled through the text, now she must have had to do a lot of reading to see that this is what happened. She discovered that the DM and one of the other players from the campaign had continued playing in that world, maybe continued the campaign or whatever with that character for months. They've been playing in that world, even though the DM said the campaign was over and nobody else was playing D&D with them, and he wasn't DMing anymore, yet he stayed DMing with this other player. I'll continue that story in a moment. So the clue was we got a parchment treasured by the Furbolg that tells us the story of the emigration from Ireland following the invasion of the Tuatha. It reads in part, and so we came to this new land where we met new friends and found our new home. But the ancient enemy, more fearsome than the Tuatha, had followed us. The redcaps, our misery, is their joy. So he says, this is an ugly story, Quintessence lasts. Kind of like the ugly story I'm in the middle of telling you about D&D. Based on what you found, it looks like the Furbolg blamed the redcaps for trapping them in the mystical world of Croatoa. Have you had any encounters with the redcaps yet? Well, you'll want to watch out. We're not talking about cute little brownies here. No siree, the redcaps are some of the most vicious and deadly creatures I've ever seen. Frankly, I don't blame the Furbolg for being afraid of them. Next mission, he says. The Furbolg have been battling the Tuatha for centuries, and things haven't gotten any friendlier, it should say, since the two groups have been trapped in Croatoa together. What's worse, this war is putting all of Salamanca in danger. If you could help push the Tuatha out of New Connaught, or however that's said, it may go a long way toward reducing violence in the area. Could you do it? So now we're going to defeat 10 Tuatha. Okay. So yeah, she spied on the guy. She looked at all the Discord. She saw that in the chat that they were playing this campaign again, and so she posted to D&D Beyond to say, what should I do? Should I confront this guy? I'm just venting right now, but should I confront this guy? And what she said in the the post at the end of the post, which is what my first thought was, is maybe she's one of the people who was stressing this DM out. I'm like, yeah, possibly. Right? He said this game is stressing me out. I don't want to play it anymore. And then you found out he's been continuing this game with somebody else, one of the other people in the group. Obviously, that person wasn't stressing him out. The implication is the other people were. And so I think that I think she's probably doesn't want to confront this guy. I mean, she's apparently going to, but I think it's probably going to be a bad idea if she confronts this guy, because he may be forced to tell her, look, you are one of the people, or maybe you were the main source of my stress, and I didn't want to play with you anymore. And, you know, I guess, my guess is she's a friend. He likes her. He just can't deal with playing her in D&D. This happens sometimes, right? I mean, I had a really good friend that I've mentioned him before, the guy who cheated at Champions. I mean, we all liked him personally, outside of the fact that he was cheating in Champions. And so, like, no, I don't think he would have wanted to hear the truth about himself. See if I can taunt a couple of these guys out. Oh, no, I got them all, didn't I? Okay, we're going to need some luck here and some extra damage, because this is a lot of them. Fortunately, we do have some AoEs we can use. And the luck helps. Now AoE again. There we go. So I don't know. I have the feeling she's going to be sad when she finds out the truth. I mean, I think she's already sad. But I like, this is the kind of thing. This is the kind of thing you got to be really careful when you ask people for the truth, right? Because they might tell you, and the truth might not be so fun to hear. And I think, obviously, this mistake number one is like, don't look in somebody's Discord. You know, this guy kept it private. My guess is he kept it private to spare her feelings, and now she's going to ask him about it, which is going to force him to not be able to spare her feelings. Um, so yeah, be careful with that kind of stuff, guys. All right, I just got word from Gordon Bauer, Mayor of Salamanca. Apparently, Furbolg have gotten their hands on a book of runes that the Salamancans were using to keep the worst of the monsters out of the village. Can you go and retrieve it? Yeah, we can. Really isn't much of a story here. I mean, we got a little hint of a story with the red caps, but then he dropped it, and now we're doing other stuff, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but okay. I feel like this story is way more disjointed than Fall Line or the Hollows. Yeah, to make matters worse, one of the other players, one of the ones that I frequently disagree with about lots of things on the D&D Beyond forum. Seems like a nice person, is a very good writer and a very good arguer, often hard to argue against because she is an extremely good arguer. Um, she said, you should confront this person, and argued this DM stole the campaign from you, right? By telling you, you were playing in this campaign, you had the right, essentially, to keep playing in it if you wanted to, and if he was going to stop the campaign is one thing, but he had no right to take the campaign and keep playing it with somebody else and not you if you wanted to keep playing in it. I'm like, so here's the thing: you can't make somebody DM for you. You can't. You literally cannot. You can't make someone DM. DMing requires prep. You can't make them prep for you. DMing requires them showing up to the session. You can't make them show up to the session. You can't force someone to GM for you. And you don't own the campaign that you're playing in. I mean, in a sense you do, in the sense that you own your character. So I would say that the DM certainly didn't have a right to keep using her character as an NPC without her permission, and I would never use someone's character as an NPC without their permission. There's an awesome character name that I love and I've always wanted to use, but I never will because I can't get permission. The person passed away, and it was actually, I ran a mush that was a superhero-based mush, and it was based on champions. And one of the fellow admins was a really good friend of mine, and was a really nice person, and used to play this really cool character. It's an awesome character concept, and since he actually killed himself and he's passed away, he's certainly never going to play this character. And I love the concept, and I'd love to see the character kind of live again. And I suspect if I'd asked him, would you mind if you're not around someday if I play this character? We were good friends. He probably would say, nah, you can do it. Go ahead. I wouldn't mind. But I don't have his permission. And even though he's not alive, there's nobody here to see it. There's nobody here to know. There's nobody here to have any idea that this person was the source of the character and I copied it. Ethically, morally, it would not be right for me to use someone else's character without permission. And so I never will. And I think same thing, GM-wise, you shouldn't be using somebody's character without their permission. My friend who's got the sorcerer who's got a girlfriend, his character, the girlfriend is actually based on a character that his wife made when she was playing D&D with him. And I feel kind of weird about that, because even though I have kind of his permission, I don't actually have her permission. Now I'm assuming, since when her character appeared last week, he turned around and said, your character has finally made an appearance in this campaign, and she looked over his shoulder at the picture I'd made and gave her approval that it's fine with her. But if you make up a character, yeah, the GM doesn't have a right to use her character as an NPC in the campaign. But otherwise, the GM has every right to use whatever he made up in the campaign, and the GM and the other player have the right to continue the campaign without the other people if they want. You can't make people play with you, and you can't stop them from playing in the game that you used to play in. it doesn't work that way. And I suspect that this young lady is going to end up having a very unpleasant conversation with this former DM, and this may be the end of their friendship because he's going to rightly be really ticked off that she read his Discord. Right, one person who posted in the D&D Beyond said basically your relationship is toast at this point because he did something he probably shouldn't have done, which is ran this campaign in the same world, keeping it a secret from you. That hurts you, and you did something you shouldn't have done, which is reading his private Discord just because he happened to be on it on your computer. Right? Both of you did stuff that is going to severely hurt the other person, and now all that's basically this relationship is toast, and all that's left is to admit that it's toast by telling him you read his thing, and so you know what he was doing to you, and now he knows what you did to him. And he said, unless you guys are going to be willing to, as soon as you reveal this, just forgive and forget, your relationship is done. And I think that person may be right. So yeah, but you don't. Just because you want to play in a campaign, just because you want my campaign to continue if we're playing together, and you wish it would, doesn't mean you own it. And it doesn't mean you get to play in it if I don't want to run it for you anymore. You can't force a GM to run for you. And trying to do so is only going to make it bad. It's not going to fix it. It's only going to make the situation worse. It's going to ruin your relationship with that GM. And I think that may be what's going to happen here. And I think my guess is if she hadn't, I'm going to guess here because, again, of my experience as a guild leader and having something similar to this happen to me with our guild in Star Wars The Old Republic, and I've had similar situations happen. My guess is if she hadn't worked so hard as she claims, as she characterizes it, to keep the campaign alive, to try and get that DM to keep running the game, right? Why does she know that it stressed him out? Because she must have been insisting, let's try it. What can I do to keep this thing running? What can I do to convince you to keep doing it? What can I do to make your life easier so that you keep doing this? My guess is if she hadn't kept pushing, the GM might have invited her into the private session too. I would be very willing to bet, again, because of my own experience with this, that GM probably would say, what that GM probably did was invite the one player who did not cause him stress. Didn't ask, said, I totally understand, it's fine with me, don't feel bad, I enjoyed the campaign, and we'll play Talisman or something. That person didn't pressure the GM, right? This player pressured that GM. It seems like she pressured him to keep running, and he didn't want the pressure. You're stressing me. I don't want that pressure, right? So she pressured him to keep running, and he's running with somebody else. Who? The person, my guess is, the one guy who wasn't a source of stress. The one person who did not pressure the DM. And so the DM's like, okay, you didn't pressure me. If you want to keep going, we can, but you can't tell anybody else because, and especially don't tell Polly or whatever this girl's name is, because she's going to pressure me, right? And he doesn't want the pressure. That's what he's saying to her. I don't want the pressure. And she was like, let's play anyway. I'll find a way to help you do it so it's low pressure. That's not going to work. He's already decided he doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want the pressure. And her pushing him to keep it up is only adding to the stress and the pressure. And so my guess is what he's going to end up saying is, the reason I'm playing with Ralph and not you is because Ralph didn't pressure me and you did, right? You can't pressure somebody into DMing for you. And if you try, it's going to backfire. And that's, I think, what happened. Okay, so we found the book. What is this now? A Rune of Warding, Special versus Fey. Thanks, Quintessence Last. Without a small object of power like this one, I'm afraid Salamanca would be entirely overrun. As a hero of Salamanca, you should have the protection of these spells. Here, study this Rune of Warding. The knowledge of the rune will fade in time, but for a few days it will keep you safe. So what's the actual details of this? Expires in 2 days of in-game time. You know how long that is? If I play like an hour a day, it's going to take me 48 days. This character will be level 50, 50 before that expires. Okay. Let's call Skipper, who says, "Thanks for retrieving the book, Quintessence Lass. You're giving Salamanca a fighting chance against the darkness." Well, let's do another mission. These have been short. I've learned of a battle, big battle, between the Firbolg and the Tuatha. The more violence in Croatoa, the more danger all of the village people are in. This means I need you to stop it. Are you up to it? Okay, defeat all. I do like that the missions are very close together. I'll give them that. I think there is an interesting story here with the slipping of this place into the spirit world and the Red Cap War against the Firbolgs and the Firbolgs against the Tuatha and all of that. I think that's all actually quite interesting. I just think that they don't, like, this is enough for one story arc, and they spread it out into two by having a bunch of hunt missions that are utterly pointless and have nothing to do with the story. It's almost like they arbitrarily decided how many story arcs they wanted to give, and they didn't have enough content for it, so they just added a bunch of fluff so that they could do, let's say, I don't know how many, 4 story arcs in this zone instead of 3. And it would have been just better off to do fewer story arcs and have them be a little meatier. So anyway. But yeah, you can't... I'm reminded of... it was a terrible movie. I went to see it because Kathleen Turner, Michael Douglas, and Danny DeVito were all in the movie. But there's this movie called The War of the Roses. And it was a couple whose last name, I guess, was Rose. And they fell in love and they got married, Kathy Turner and Michael Douglas. And then this guy was their friend and attorney, who was Danny DeVito. And he was telling the story of these two who... they got married, and then what happened is, I think she wanted to leave, and he did not want her to leave. And they both wanted the house, and they agreed to some sort of a thing where whoever stayed in the house for an entire week or something, or a weekend, would get it. And then, of course, they were both trying to, like, kind of make each other leave, so that, you know, so they were playing pranks on each other and stuff. And it started out funny, and then it got actually quite serious, and it wasn't anywhere near as funny a movie as I was hoping it would be. But at one point, Danny DeVito says to the person that he's talking to, "How do you make someone leave if they want to stay? How do you make someone stay if they want to leave?" Right? She wanted to leave, and he was trying to make her stay, and she wanted him to leave, and he didn't want to go, right? So he said, how do you make someone leave if they want to stay? And how do you make someone stay if they want to leave? And I think that I was thinking that quote the whole time I was reading this post. How do you make a GM stay when he doesn't want a GM? How do you make a player stop playing when they don't want to stop and they want to keep playing, right? And this is what happened. The GM, I think, ultimately did not want to play. Is that it for this mission? Oh no, there's another tunnel. He didn't want to play with her. I mean, I think it's pretty clear. She was not the only player he didn't want to play with. Maybe not the main problem player, but she was clearly a player that he did not want to play with. Or he would have invited her into the private Discord channel with the other person, right? And again, I think if she confronts him about it, and if everyone's honest about what went on, I think what she's going to find is that when things started, she wasn't one of the stressors on that GM. But when he said, I don't want to play anymore, and she kept trying to keep the campaign alive and try to help him keep it going, and let's see if we can find a way to compromise or, you know, work things out or talk things out with a player, that stressed the GM out enough that he was like, I don't want her anymore because I don't want to be in this setting anymore. I don't want to run this game anymore. And by setting, I'm not talking about like the D&D setting. I mean the setting of this group of people playing together is stressing me out. I don't want to be a part of this anymore, and I want it to just stop. And once somebody's made that decision, it's a mistake to try and get them to go back on it. right? GMing is really hard work. It's fun work, but it's hard work. It's a lot more work than being the player. All the player has to do is show up and have fun. The GM has to worry about whether all the players are having fun. It's their job to make sure you have fun. That's potentially stressful if you're not, especially if everybody's having fun in different ways. Then you start getting people complaining about some of the stuff you did in last session, and that's a really cool visual effect. It missed though. Um, I mean, if they're stressing you out and it's not fun, right? Then you're not going to want to keep playing. And so, uh, GMing is hard work. It's a lot harder work than being a player. You have to worry about a lot of things that the players don't. You have to prep. You have to, again, you're worrying about whether the other players are having fun as well as yourself. You, as a GM, often feel it incumbent upon you to sacrifice your own fun for everybody else. This, by the way, is the same thing as being a guild leader. Works the same way. And there's a boss. Liam is his name. Sounds quite Irish. Let's go ahead and buff up. See if we can hit him with the rune. Cool. Good special effect. Not really necessary, but a good special to, it's not really necessary to use it, but it's a good special effect. Get him debuffed. So the GM does a lot of work, and you have to be enthused. You have to be looking forward to it. Our next game is Saturday. Today's a Tuesday. One of the players, my former colleague, has a habit of calling me up pretty much like clockwork every Thursday at 5 p.m. Not sure, I mean, like, I don't mind chatting with her. I'm not sure why she feels the need that we have to talk every Thursday at 5. And once in a while, maybe twice in the last, like, year and a half, she hasn't been able to call me on Thursday at 5. And she's apologized for not calling me on Thursday at 5 as if there's some unwritten agreement between us where she's supposed to call me on Thursdays at 5. But sitting here on a Tuesday at 5-ish, I thought about, oh yeah, she's probably going to call me in 2 days. In day after tomorrow, she's going to be calling me, and that's 2 days from now. And then when she calls me 2 days from that, we're going to be playing D&D. I'm looking forward to it, right? That kind of reaction to, like, almost like good when she calls me will be that much closer to D&D. I'm kind of looking forward to her calling me because that means we'll be very close to playing D&D. That's what you want your DM to be thinking. Is good, we're about to start playing D&D. I want to play. I've mentioned this before. When Saturday comes, I'm like doing a countdown. Oh, it's noon. Only 8 hours till D&D. As long as you feel that way, DMing, that's great. That's what you're supposed to feel. If instead I'm like, oh gosh, it's only 5 more days and I'm going to have to GM this group. I really don't want to do that, and I was trying to move that orange and accidentally clicked it, but that's all right. We have enough inspirations. We're fine. If I were dreading it, that's a first sign that I should be saying I need a break or we have to stop, right? And if I say to the group, look, guys, I'm not enjoying GMing anymore and I really want to stop, it would be a huge mistake for them to say, can you keep doing it for us? What can we do to make your life happier so you can keep doing it? No. Don't ever try to get a GM who's not enjoying GMing to do it, because it's going to suck. It will be a horrible experience for them and a horrible experience for you. You need your GM to be enjoying it, to be having a blast, having fun, right? They're having fun in a different way from the players, but it still needs to be fun for them. I enjoy making maps. I like keying out dungeons. I like building NPC monsters. I don't necessarily want to spend 5 hours doing it, but I enjoy it. It's like, okay, my day of work is over. Let me open up Foundry and make up a legendary boss for the next adventure's, level boss. And I'm like trying to get my work done super fast, get all my grading done so that I can get into Foundry and do some DM work. That's what you want your DM to be feeling, not, oh no, I have to do this. If your DM is feeling, oh no, I have to do this, that's a problem. You don't want that. And you don't want to encourage the DM to keep DMing when they're feeling this way. And again, I'm going to point this out. The odds are, because DMing is an obligation, and I feel it as a DM, to my players and you're taking a bit of a hit in the fun department to make sure everybody else is having a good time, and to be the host to the session and to help the players have a good time and provide a good world for them to adventure in and all that. Because of that, just like being a guild leader, right? Some of the fun that all the players are having, you're doing the paperwork and the bookkeeping of the guild. By the time you say to the players, I'm tired of doing this, you've already been tired for a while. Because when you first start feeling, gee, I don't know if I want to keep this campaign up, maybe I want to be a player again and not a DM or what have you, you take it on the chin for several sessions, maybe several months, maybe an adventure or two. The whole last 3 adventures, you really haven't been having fun, but you've been trying to keep up appearances because you want the players to enjoy it and you know they're going to be disappointed if you stop. So by the time you come to the players, it's not the beginning of feeling like you might not want to GM or run a guild anymore. It's the end of it. You wouldn't even bring it up if it hadn't already gotten so far that you can't do it anymore. Right? So then when the players say, can't you keep it up? We'll try to help. The odds are it's too late. No, I probably can't. And my guess is at some point, I don't know if we're going to get to 20th level. I've already thought to myself, maybe I made this campaign too long. There are too many parts to it. They've only found like 2 of the 16 parts to the riddle. And each part is an adventure. Maybe it's too long, right? And maybe I need to speed this up a little bit. And I don't really have a good way to speed it up now because we've established that they've got to visit these 16 temples. And I've given them a map to the temples. So I can't necessarily have 5 of the clues show up in one temple. uh, you know, maybe at some point in the middle of this campaign, 7 temples in, I'm going to be like, I don't want to do this anymore. By the time I bring that to my players, it's going to be time that I want to stop, right? I'm going to wait until I absolutely feel like I can't do it anymore before I say, guys, I think we need to stop. At that point, there isn't probably going to be anything they can say that's going to make me want to continue. Right? Now, hopefully it won't happen. Hopefully we'll get all the way to the end and, either they'll stop first and then I won't feel bad, or we'll actually get to the end of it. I mean, who knows? It's going to take probably another year or 2. But by the time I say I'm ready to stop, just like when I made the post for my guild saying I'm done, I was already thinking about it for weeks. I had gone on vacation to visit my family. I was there for like 10 days. I was thinking about it on the drive up. I was thinking about it the whole 10 days. And I was composing my post out loud to myself for 8 hours in the car as I drove home. By the time I got home, all that was left to do was write the post. I had been thinking about it for days. I had been thinking about it even before I went on vacation. Do I really want to keep dealing with this guild that is falling apart? The activity was dead, and I was going to have to resurrect it and recruit a whole bunch of new players rather than playing with the old friends that I'd started the guild with, and I just didn't want to do that. I wasn't in Star Wars: The Old Republic to play Star Wars: The Old Republic with a bunch of strangers. I was in it to play with these old friends who had stopped playing because they just didn't enjoy the game anymore. And so there were a few people left who were my friends, but not enough of them for a guild. So by the time I posted it, I made this long post. I edited it multiple times. I rewrote it several times. It was 3 or 4 days after I got back from vacation before I made that post. It was too late. Nobody was going to be able to convince me to stay. Same thing with DMing. By the time the DM says, I don't want to play anymore, I don't want to run anymore, it's too stressful for me, they've already been stressed, maybe for months, and they can't do it anymore. So I think it's a bad idea to try to convince people to keep doing this when they're volunteering to serve you and they say, I can't do it anymore, it's stressing me out. You need to accept it. And the right answer for this young lady wasn't to get this DM to keep playing. What she should have said was, okay, if she wanted to keep playing D&D, okay, how about you play and I'll DM? And I'll make up, we'll just play in the Forgotten Realms because I don't want to make up my own world. And let's all go online and see which adventure sounds the most fun. And if, say, they decide on Ghost of Saltmarsh, okay, I'll buy this Ghost of Saltmarsh. Or maybe if I don't have the money, can you guys chip in for that? And if you chip in, I'll run it. And she could have been running for the last year. And maybe that GM would have been willing to play in a campaign with her. But instead, she tried to force him to keep DMing. That's not what you want to do. If your DM or GM says, "I don't want to do this anymore," your response, if you want to keep things going, should be, "I'll do it. I'll volunteer." And sometimes all that GM needs, guys, is a break for 6 months. Let someone else DM for a while. And after 6 months, after we do Ghosts of Saltmarsh, I'm ready to come back and continue that campaign. We've had a break. Maybe whatever tension is going on between that GM and the player that was causing all the trouble would have fizzled by then. Maybe that player would see a different GM running and be like, that GM's even worse at this than the old GM, so I'll stop bugging the old GM about it. And maybe that player would have stressed her out too, and the whole group would have said, look, this is 2 DMs in a row you're stressing out, player. You need to leave. And then neither DM would have been stressed, right? But you don't want to try and encourage a GM to keep running a game that he or she doesn't want to run. It's never going to work. It's going to only make everybody miserable, and it's going to make things worse. Anyway, that's my rant for the day. Let's call our contact Skipper, who says, their Furbolg said they want their dead warriors to continue to rise again and continue their war forever. Well, I can't say I'm surprised. Common theme in folklore: eternal bloodshed, war without end, etc. But I have to admit, I feel, well, sad for them. They've been locked in combat all these years, and not even death can still their rage. Quintessence Last Kurotoa is a dark and horrible place. I'm finally beginning to get that through my head. All right, so we're going to stop there, guys. Sorry about the rant. I guess I went on too long about that. I do apologize. Until next time, I am Scrapperlock, and this is City of Heroes on the Rebirth server.